Welcome back to ABC 13 Weather Now. As we mentioned, Tropical Storm Erin just formed in the Atlantic off the west coast of Africa and is moving fast across the Atlantic Ocean. And here with us today, of course, Houston Chronicle meteorologist Justin Ballard. We're talking about the role of sea spray. Can you imagine? Sea spray can impact a hurricane's path and intensity.
It can and does. And I think this is going to be part of a kind of two-part sort of special on sea spray and hurricane intensity. We'll, of course, talk about kind of the basics today before getting into what one researcher here in Texas is doing to kind of model out sea spray. So first of all, what the heck is sea spray?
What is sea spray?
What is sea spray? Well, it's exactly what you feel when you go to Galveston. It's the spray that you're getting from the sea. So how does this influence hurricane development, or more specifically hurricane intensity, I guess I should say? I've got a nice little graphic here to kind of break that down.
Walk it through, yeah.
Sea spray adds extra moisture by way of to the air by way of evaporation.
Okay, makes sense.
So that makes sense. This is not, you know, super high level stuff, but we do get a little bit more into the weeds, if you want to call it that. Added moisture to the air leads to condensation and latent heat release. We all know latent heat release, or at least you and I do.
Right, you learn it in school.
You learn
when you
it
go to
in
weather
school.
school.
This, of course, adds a little bit more oomph to the atmosphere. That's the easiest way I can kind of explain it without getting deeper into the weeds. Spray droplets enhance that heat transfer to the atmosphere. What do we talk about when we're talking about intensity? Hurricanes thrive on that sort of fuel, that heat from the ocean to the atmosphere. Increases turbulence as well. That means humidity in the lower atmosphere is a little higher, and that means stronger updrafts and eventually stronger, you know, convection around the center of that. So sea spray really plays a big role in hurricane intensity, or at least a role. Again, researchers are trying to determine how big of a role, but they do believe it's played at least some slight role in kind of enhancing some of that intensification.
Interesting, and I love that we're talking about latent heat release in terms of the tropics, because when I learned it going to Valparaiso University, we talked about it in terms of snow. But we necessarily would see this more in terms of tropical and in the ocean with latent heat than with snow. But to your point, let's talk about how it impacts the tropics. It
impacts the tropics in big ways. First of all, when we're talking about, you know, a large hurricane already, let's just say we've got an example, you know, in the Atlantic somewhere. Of course, not yet, but, you know, we've got a large hurricane that's kind of fueling the storm, or fueling the, that ocean is really fueling the storm, the warm ocean waters. Temperatures generally above 80 degrees is most likely to really kind of enhance that thunderstorm activity. But let's take a top-down look here and kind of show you what's going on underneath the surface. Again, moisture plus heat. More sea spray equals more energy, and that equates to a stronger storm. So all of that sea spray is getting kind of pulled into the system, and it kind of really fueling the most intense convection, the eye wall there of that hurricane.
So it seems like then sea spray, is this something where we would be concerned like with rapid intensification? And I know it's kind of putting you on the spot here, but would sea spray then make a hurricane go from like a Cat 1 to a Cat 4?
I think it could certainly play a role. Now, how big of a role, that is still kind of being researched now by people right here in Texas, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. But really, when we're talking about intensity changes, we're not talking about huge intensity changes from sea spray. We're talking, you know, maybe a few miles more per hour in terms of those max winds, but also the deeper convection, and that of course plays a part in how strong those winds are.
Got it. So in terms of forecasting a storm, knowing sea spray is there in the Atlantic and the Caribbean, how does that impact future forecasting?
It can make models better, more able to really kind of hone in on intensity. You know, intensity forecasts are notoriously tricky for those hurricane models that we use, especially this time of the year. So if we're able to kind of get a better handle on how sea spray affects intensity and really put some numbers to that, then those models should get better.
Got it. So in terms of Erin right now, do we think sea spray is going to have a big role in this? I mean, the storm is moving so fast. It's moving at 20 miles per hour.
Very fast. Not quite highway, well, maybe highway speeds in Houston, but you know, in terms of early sort of development, not likely, but maybe as it gets into hurricane status, especially if it gets to major hurricane status, that seems to be when sea spray plays a bigger role.
Great. And then we'll see you back here on Wednesday to talk about part 2.
We'll talk about part 2. Researcher here in Texas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Justin Ballard. Tune in Wednesday then here at noon on ABC 13 to see part 2 of this conversation.
Thanks for having me.